The circle of fifths is a way of setting out all the keys that exist in Western music. It's a great reference and it makes it easy to see how the keys relate to one another. So the first thing I suggest you do to practice this is draw a circle. The next thing is draw this sequence of letter names. And this is the order, first of all, the order of sharps. To remember this, I say, Father Christmas gave Dad an electric blanket. That's just an easy way to remember it, and it means that the order of the sharps starts with F and goes through this sequence. So these are your sharps. If you read this from right to left, it gives you the order of flats. So it's really very useful and definitely the heart of the circle of fifths. The next thing I suggest is that you draw out the alphabet in the normal way. You can start an A if you like and just repeat it up here. This is just useful as a little reference, especially if you're not used to counting backwards. Because counting backwards through the alphabet might get in the way of other things we're working on. So if you just write that out there, you can refer to it and it makes things a little bit easier. The first key that belongs at the top of the circle is C. That represents the key of C major. And C major has no sharps and no flats. It's in a sense neutral. So I don't need to add anything to that. It just exists as a scale and a key that has only natural notes. Now I'm going to start counting round the circle of fifths. So I'm going to be counting round 5. And the first thing to recognize is that you start with the letter name of the key you're working from. So C is going to be note number 1, and I'm going to count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that means that we arrive at G major. G major is the first sharp key, so it requires an F sharp to sound right. So you can put your F sharp there in brackets. And now we've moved from the key of C to the key of G. So now that we're in G, we repeat that process, but this time we begin on G. So G is the new 1, and we count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That leads us to D, the key of D major. As we move round the circle to the right, each key increases the number of sharps by 1. So the first sharp is always F. Now we need to add the second sharp, C sharp. And we can continue round the circle in that same way till we get all the way up to 7 sharps. For now, I'm going to go back to the C, and I'm going to count this time to the left, which means I'm counting down the scale or counting backwards from C. So I'm resetting my brain to think in C major, and I'm going to count down from C. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if you counted that out correctly, you would arrive at F. F is the first flat key, and the first flat is always B flat. So in brackets, I'm going to add a B flat. And now I'm thinking in F major. So I'm including B flat in my scale now, and I'm going to think down to the left again, 5 places. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I've arrived at the note B flat. So as soon as I moved into the key of F major, I was thinking all the B's are flat, all the B's are flat. And that meant when I counted down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, my arrival point was B flat major. B flat is the second of the flat keys, therefore it requires not only a B flat, but also an E flat. And this is how the circle of fifths works. So you just continue to count. The really important thing is that every time you have a new starting point, that you're thinking in that key and including all the sharps or flats that belong in that key in order to count round to the next one. And so it goes on. And that's the first part of the circle of fifths. So I recommend you draw out your circle. You draw out Father Christmas gave Dad an electric blanket to get the order of sharps and flats. You might find it useful to have an alphabet up there, and then just work around counting in fifths and thinking about the key you're in, and you can draw out the whole circle of fifths.